Welcome back to MMA Al Dente, the stupidest name in YouTube history. And I'm here to talk about Gregory RoboCop Rodrigues versus Denis Tiuliulin. Denis is 11-7 as a pro, 35 years old, and he's giving up 2 inches of height, but has 2 inches of reach over 31-year-old RoboCop, who is 13-5 as a pro. RoboCop, he's a monster. This guy is a better grappler than he is a striker. And in MMA, he's pretty much a pure knockout artist. He's got 8 wins via knockout and his 13 wins, just 3 submissions and 2 decisions. Not one of those submissions comes at the UFC level. For the last few fights of his that he's won, and all of which in the UFC, he's been a knockout artist. Got Chidi Kawani, Julian Marquez, Junyan Park, and back in the LFA, Josh Fremd and the guy Al Matavo out of there via knockout. Those are his last few victories. He's got bricks in his hands. I described him as like Mike Tyson, but he's kind of more like Alex Pereira. But, he's a longer, taller guy, and he's got bricks in his hands. Just that magic touch. On the flip side, he's got a weak chin. And it's already cost him 3 times in his 18 fights, and I think moving forward it will be responsible for the majority of his losses. He's been knocked out 3 times, going back to his debut against this guy Bruno Lopez, guy who is now 11-0 as a pro, but he knocked him out with a counter right hand. 1 punch, sat him on his ass, and then he pounded him out. Jordan Williams knocked him out on the Contender Series, just knocked him dead against the cage. And Bruno Ferreira, who had his back against the cage, knocked him out with 1 punch in his last fight. And that was a fight where RoboCop, in my opinion, was way too confident in himself, and specifically in his chin. He was just putting his chin on a platter in front of Bruno because he was so excited about the offense that he was landing. And RoboCop was landing some good offense. He's got really powerful hands, as I said, and he was winging some wild hooks. But he's got that big weakness, and I do think he's got to mind his P's and Q's. I don't think he's ever going to get that cocky where not that he was cocky like taunting, but I think he's going to be a lot more careful than he was in the Bruno Ferreira fight. But still, that's his primary weakness, and moving forward, if he's going to want to, reap the benefits of his primary strength, his hands, then he's going to end up getting knocked out. It will happen, because I have serious doubts in his chin. Here in this fight, he'd be better off trying to grapple against Denis Tiuliulin, who is no grappler by any means. RoboCop will have a distinct advantage there. The thing is, it's just not in his DNA as a fighter. I think he's going to try to go that route in this fight here, but I don't know if he can sustain a grappling game plan for 15 minutes, even against a guy like Denis, who is bottom of the barrel as far as grappling goes in the UFC. He doesn't have 1 sub at the UFC level, and I thought that the grappling was about to cost him a little bit in the Junyan Park fight. He had a good amount of success grappling Park, had good control early, and then in round 2, I thought Park was going to take over. And he came very close to knocking him out, but then RoboCop, his power bailed him out. He marched forward like a zombie and knocked Junyan Park dead. So his power is always going to be there. He can change the fight on a dime just with that power. But I think as a grappler, he's got to go right through you in a round or so. Otherwise, I don't think he's going to be grappling for the whole 15 minutes. I think a fight of his will degenerate into a striking battle. Denis Tiuliulin, he's got 11 wins, 9 via knockout or TKO, 1 via decision, and 1 via DQ. And his 7 losses come 1 via knockout, 4 via submission, 2 via decision. The knockout is a ground TKO. He was TKO'd from the back mount against this guy Artur. And, yeah, my point is his chin didn't fail him. It was his grappling that failed him. His 4 submission losses come against good fighters. 3 via rear naked choke and 1 via Kimura outside the UFC. That was to Ikram Aliskerov, who's currently in the UFC and kicking ass. And then he lost 3 times by rear naked choke. Kizriev and Junyan Park got him out of there in the UFC. and the Tajikistan fighter got him out of there before he got to the UFC. All three of those rear naked chokes are technical submission losses, meaning he did not tap. And I remember bringing this up before his last loss, and then turns out that one was also a technical sub loss. He's just really fucking tough, really gritty, and clearly pretty stubborn. So admirable traits there to have 3 technical sub losses on your record, but still it does speak to, along with his toughness, his weakness in grappling. And I see that as a big hole that hopefully RoboCop is staring at for his own sake. But Denis, he's a good striker. He's got good volume, mixes shit up very well, and he's comfortable in a brawl too. He's fine getting inside the pocket and throwing down, which could behoove him against RoboCop, especially if RoboCop is feeling his oats or whatever it is. I think Matt Serra fucked up that phrase recently as well, feeling his oats or whatever. But RoboCop, he's willing to engage in a brawl. The thing is, he's got the power advantage in just about every matchup, but he doesn't have the chin advantage. And I'd say that's the case here with Denis. If these two guys are throwing down, Denis Tiuliulin, even though he doesn't have the single overhand power of Bruno Ferreira, he's got some Jordan Williams power and some Jordan Williams hands inside, and I think he could put RoboCop out. So I'm picking RoboCop to win because I think he's got that distinct grappling advantage. I would hope for his sake it's a round 1 submission, but I'll definitely be betting on Denis Tiuliulin, and I will be betting on him via knockout, especially if it's juicier than his money line at plus 255, which is already pretty juicy. Again, I'm not picking him to win, but I think those odds are off. RoboCop, he's better technically, and he's still more dangerous on the feet, but he's got that glaring weakness, his chin, and he's a guy who invites a stand-up battle a lot of times because he's looking to do his favorite thing, which is knock you out. So Denis Tiuliulin by knockout would not surprise me at all. I'll be betting on that. But the pick is RoboCop. I'll pick RoboCop. I'll pick him to get a technical rear naked choke submission deep into round 1. And I hope to see a finish either way in this one. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.